Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I will be giving a brief account of the NAAC binary accreditation system. Although the topic is very vast but contemporary in nature. However, a quick rundown of the entire system I will give. As a matter of fact, the NAAC Reform Committee was formed in November 2022 under the chairmanship of the Dr. Radha Krishnan, former chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization. The purpose of the committee was to address issues and irregularities in the existing accreditation system and to develop a more robust and credible system for the periodic approval, assessment, accreditation, and ranking of all HEIs in India. HEIs means higher education institutions in India. Couple of recommendations which were given by the committee I would like to highlight. The committee proposed four sets of the transformative reforms, and these four sets of the transformative reforms are flashed over here. Number one, the binary accreditation framework. The committee, the first recommendation that gave is the binary accreditation framework, that is called BAF. It means that whether the institution is going to be accredited or not accredited. Only two criteria will be there. That is how the name comes, the binary, 1 and 0. So either 1 or 0, so whether it is accredited or not accredited. The second recommendation was given the maturity based graded levels, that is called MBGL. Here they have defined 5 levels of the maturity. The level number 1 is an emerging institution. Level number 2 is developing institution. Level number 3 is established institution. And level number 4 will be institutions of the national importance. And level number 5 will be those institutions having the global standards of the academics as well as the research. The third recommendation was given, focus on rural and remote institutions. Some of the rural and remote institutions were not given so much of the weightage. So they want to put those institutions also under the ambit of the NAAC. Now the last recommendations, what they said is the inclusion of the IITs. Earlier the IITs were not included in the NAAC, but this binary accreditation system will be definitely including all the IITs. Now coming to the National Accreditation Council. National Accreditation Council will be the major body. Under this council, this was envisioned in National Education Policy 2021. We will have an apex body that will be called as an Higher Education Commission of India. I will repeat, Higher Education Commission of the India. Higher Education Commission of India will have 4 major verticals. One vertical will be dealing with all sorts of the accreditation processes. The second vertical will be dealing with all sorts of the regulations. The third vertical will be talking about the funding, planning, allocations, distributions, etc. And the whole lot of implementation plans so far the funding is concerned. That will be dealt by Higher Education Grants Council. The fourth vertical will be General Education Council, that will be addressing the issues about the standards and the quality of the academics as well as the research. Now, let's try to move from a graded to the ungraded system. What exactly the reform committee is saying about this? Earlier, we had the marks, we had the grades, and all these grades were given in terms of the A plus plus, A plus, A, B plus plus, B plus, B, C, and D. The D grade means institution not accredited. However, in the new system of the binary, the institution will only fall under these two category, that is whether it is accredited or not accredited, means 1 or 0. Now, as I said earlier also, the level 1, they have categorized this under the 5 levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 and level 5. If you look at this, I said in the previous slide, The level 1 means emerging institutions, the recent institutions. Level 2 will be the developing institutions. The level 3 will be the established institution. Already they have established. Level 4 will be the institutions who will be having the national excellence, national importance. Level 5 will be those institutions who will be following the global standards, or they will be achieving the global excellence in terms of the academics as well as in terms of the research, innovation and entrepreneurship. Now let's try to figure out the salient features of the new NAAC, that is a binary NAAC. Adopted binary NAAC, what it says, basically, it simplifies the accreditation process. Earlier, the complex process was there, where most of you must be aware about this. The second aspect is the mandatory for all HEIs to go for accreditation. This was not earlier. Some of the institutions like IITs, they are not falling under the ambit of the accreditation. But this time, with the binary accreditation system, including the IITs, all the institutions have got to go mandatorily through such assessment and accreditation process. The third one is largely based on the quantitative assessment, full public disclosure of the data. The institutions cannot have it with them only. The data have got to be put on the website and it should be made public. Review through an online mode wherever it is required. Peer data validation shall be adopted to validate the data. Input process, output impact based approach. This part I will deal in my concluding slide. Meanwhile, let's try to see to this that what are the major differences. Earlier, the NAAC had the 7 criteria, but now with the binary accreditation system, the total number of the criteria will be 10. Let's give a recap of what earlier the NAAC had. I'll just touch upon all these points. I'll not be dealing much more on this because of the shortage of the time. Otherwise, the video will become too long. Let's see the criteria number 1. Criteria number 1 had 4 key indicators. This is basically the curricular aspects, which deals with the curriculum design and development. It also talks about the flexibility, that's academic flexibility. It also talks about the curriculum enrichment and the feedback system. The criteria number 1 will be having a total number of 7 metrics. Here, if you see this in the metrics, earlier system also had the quantitative and qualitative. So when it comes to the quantitative, here in this binary system, quantitative metrics are being given more weightage. So the criteria number 1 carries 150 marks. Out of the 150 marks, 85 marks are allocated for the quantitative, whereas for the qualitative metrics, only 65 marks are allocated out of the 150. Coming to the criteria number 2, the teaching, learning and evaluation system. As you are aware about this, that these are the all 7 key indicators of the teaching, learning and evaluation process. Mainly the student enrollment and profile, catering to the student diversity, teaching learning process. It is not only the student diversity, it also talks about the faculty diversity. Teaching learning processes being adopted by the institution, teachers profile and the quality of the teachers, their experiences of the teachers, evaluation process and the reforms, student performance and the learning outcomes, student satisfaction survey. This is most important, student satisfaction survey. When we are talking about the student performance and the learning outcomes means basically we have got to implement the OB system, outcome based education. Criteria number 2, as many of you are aware about this, this is basically teaching, learning and evaluation criteria. Here in the new system I am just talking about this. This criteria will be having a total number of the 15 metrics. The weightage in terms of the marks will be given, that will be 200. So out of 200, 160 marks have been allocated for the quantitative metrics, whereas only 40 marks have been allocated for the qualitative metrics. This has got to be noted by all of you to see to this that how much weightage is being given for the quantitative metrics. So for the teaching, learning and evaluation is concerned. Now moving to the criteria number 3, which will be having maximum weightage, and this criteria is basically research, innovations and the extension activities. All of us we are now looking at this, that how research and innovations can be given a big boost. So resource mobilization for the research, innovation, ecosystem, research publications and awards. Awards basically the incentives for the teachers. Consultancy, maybe from the public sector, from the private sector, from any sectors, but the consultancy is one of the major criteria so far the research, innovations and extension activities are concerned. Then comes to the collaborations with the industries or the other higher institutions at global level. Now let's move on to this, that how many metrics are there in this criteria. Total number of metrics are 20. Quantitative metrics has got again the maximum weightage, 223 out of 250. I would also like to remind you once again that research, innovation and extension activity, this falls under the criteria number 3, carries the maximum marks. Here if you look at this, 223 out of 250 goes to the quantitative metrics. It means that only 27 marks are allocated for the qualitative metrics. Now moving to the criteria number 4, infrastructure and learning resources. This is talking about the physical facilities what the institutions are having. Library as a learning resources, IT infrastructure, it means the computer laboratories, etc., research centers, and all kind of an incubation center. Maintenance of the campus infrastructure. Campus infrastructure means basically all sorts of the sports complex, academic buildings, administrative buildings, and entire environment altogether. Now let's try to see to this how many metrics are there in this. 9 metrics altogether. And what kind of a weightage will be given to this? 100 marks will be given for this criteria. This is infrastructure and learning resources. Quantitative metrics will be having the 40 marks. Whereas here, if you find some little changes here, here the qualitative metrics will be having 60 marks. So out of the 100, 40 and 60 divisions are there. Move on to criteria number 5. This talks about the student support and progression system. And it means the student participation and activities. Most importantly here, as one of the key indicators, if you look at this, this is alumni engagement. How the institutions are effectively using the alumni and what kind of supports are being given from the alumni and what kind of supports are being taken from the alumni. Now next criteria, if you look at this, in the same criteria, if you look at this, the metrics, total number of metrics here in criteria number 5 is 12. Here again the marks allocated is only 100. Out of 100 quantitative metrics are given maximum weightage, and that weightage if you see here it's an 85 marks, whereas for the qualitative metrics only the 15 marks are. Moving on to the criteria number 6 that talks about sound governance, leadership and the management. How the institution is giving such kind of support to the faculty as well as the students. This is focusing on the vision of the institution and the leadership attributes. Strategy development and deployment plans, faculty empowerment strategy, financial management and resource mobilizations. And the last key indicator is internal quality assurance system. How the institution is having the management for the quality. What kind of committees have been established in every school, in every department, in every faculty. Now, when it comes to the metrics, total number of metrics in criteria number 6 is basically are 13. When it comes to the quantitative metrics, the weightage out of 148 marks allocated, whereas for the qualitative metrics, 53 marks are allocated. Now, move on to the last criteria, that is the criteria number 7. This talks about institutional values and best practices. Most of the institutions, they follow this, but what are the all ethical practices we are having in the institution? Institutional values and the social corporate responsibilities. In what way the institutions are really fulfilling this part? What are the best practices institutions are following? What are the institutional distinctiveness? How an institution is going to be distinct than others? So these are the 3 aspects which are very important for the last criteria. Let's try to see to this that how many metrics it has. The last criteria has 12 metrics, whereas here you will be finding little change in terms of the weightage. The criteria carries 100 marks. Out of 100 marks, only 20 marks are allocated for the quantitative metrics. Whereas for the qualitative metrics, it is talking about the total weight is 80 marks. What all the important aspect is basically promotion of the gender equity, management of degradable and non-degradable waste, green campus initiatives, etc., etc. Now let's try to see to this that how the newer system is different than the older system. The older system had the 7 criteria, whereas the new system of the NAAC, I mean to say, binary accreditation system will have the 10 attributes. Some of the points which I have tried to highlight over here is basically they are the different than the previous 7 criteria. Exactly, there are some of them are quite overlapping. Here, if you look at this, curriculum design was in a common there even in the previous criteria also. Here you will be finding the faculty resources have been given a separate kind of an identification. Financial resources also have been given a separate kind of an distinctiveness over here. The next part is student outcomes, and one additional part which was not really spelled out in the earlier criteria of the NAAC was the sustainability, the green initiatives. What are the green initiatives? Basically, the green campus. What they are trying to say to this, that your rain harvesting system, solar system, oxy zones, green plants, STP, WTP, etc., etc. Now, while concluding, let's try to summarize this whole process. As a matter of fact, the new system, that is in a binary system, it talks about the 3 systems. One is the input, what input we are giving to the institution, how the institution is following, what all the processes the institution is following, and what is the outcome of an institution. First, let's try to talk about this input part of this. It means that how we are going to design the curriculums, what kind of enrichment is given in the curriculum, whether it is following the industrial norms or not. Now coming to the faculty resources, how experienced and how qualified the faculties are there. Infrastructure, how good the infrastructure is going to be there in terms of the labs, in terms of the experimentation, in terms of the incubation center, the research center, and what are the financial resources through which institution is able to generate the revenue and give its share to the faculty also in terms of the incentives. Now coming to the processes. Inside the institution, what all things are happening. Learning and teaching pedagogy, how we are able to develop and what best the institution is able to develop. Extended curriculum engagements, governance and administration. Now coming to the outcome, the NAAC binary accreditation system is giving an 100% emphasis and stress on the student outcomes. Once the student is going to pass out from the portal of an institution, where he is going, whether he is going to be employed, whether he is going for the higher studies, or whether he is going for the competitive exams, what kind of recognitions he got it, and what kind of an awards he got it. It means the student outcomes is very, very important aspect so far the NAAC binary accreditation process is concerned. Now, the next outcome is in terms of the research and innovation outcomes. Research and innovation outcomes, basically, it is indicating towards the translational research. How many patents, how many copyrights, product patents, or the design patents, or what kind of things are geographical indications, or any kind of a biological product, or any kind of a chemical products, what kind of products the institutions have been able to give it. It means that how much the institution is really going to contribute for the development of the country in terms of the research, innovation, and extension activities. The next part is how institution is going to be the part of the sustainability. SDG is a major concern for the country today. Sustainability, the green initiative, mobility, when it comes to the transportation, how many students, how many faculty are really using all kind of e-vehicles, and how many of them are using different kind of methods for transportation to anything and everything, how the campus is going to be maintained and always kept as a green and self-sustainable campus. One example one can see to this, that if the entire campus does not take any kind of an electricity from the government, if it is going to be in a self-sufficient, I think probably that will be the best of this. And how you are going to derive this kind of an energy source? Energy source can be taken through the green initiatives like solarization, or wherever the institutions are located somewhere close to the seashore, the wind energy, hydel energy, etc., etc. These are the all output. Now, some of the attributes, I will not go through each and every attribute of this, but you can see to this that every input, whatever you are giving, it has got many attributes. Like let's say curricular design, it has got many attributes: outcome based curriculum, stakeholder participation, curriculum flexibility, practical and industry focus, practical skill orientation, etc. Similarly, for the faculty resources, recruitment process and allowances, faculty diversity, faculty development, faculty retention, faculty student ratio. There is a cadre ratio also, basically the professors, associate professor, as well as assistant professor. Infrastructure, physical infrastructure is one aspect of this. Learning resources means basically the library, the laboratories, they are the all learning resources. Then research resources, what kind of incubation center we have, what kind of central instrumentation facility we have, what all the facilities are going to be given for the Divyangan, basically differently abled students. Innovation resources, financial resources and management, capital income, revenue income, capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, sustainability, financial management, etc., etc. These are all basically the input attributes what I earlier showed in terms of the three processes, basically input, process, and outcome. Coming to the process attributes, again is learning and teaching, extended curricular engagements, governance and administration. Needless to talk about the outcome attributes, because here, if you look at the student outcomes in terms of the placements, in terms of the employment, academic progression, self-employment, entrepreneurship, competitive examination, awards, prizes, recognition, enrollment ratio, and graduation rate, very important. How alumni are going to be effectively utilized, their experiences are how the institution is going to harness from the rich experience of the alumni, and how the alumni are going to be engaged for the development of their alma mater. Research and innovation outcomes, external research grants, research publications, research quality, PhD awards. Research quality, when it comes to that, where the publications are going to be really published in the high impact factor journals. So these are the important aspects so far the research is concerned. Where the outcome based research is there or not, it is not just simply uh, basically publishing the papers, but also what kind of products we are developing, how many PhDs are being awarded per year. IPs, very important is IP, intellectual property rights, in terms of the number of the patents, in terms of the number of the copyrights, in terms of the logo, trademarks, or geographical indications, or any kind of biological product, etc., etc. How many startups the institution have really produced. Sustainability, as I have already said about this, waste and water management, uh, progressing towards net zero. This is basically net zero for the carbon footprint. What kind of initiatives the institution has really taken, the green audits and initiatives, collaborations with the industries as well as the NGOs. So with this, I'm coming towards the conclusion. I only say that the new system of the binary accreditation process will be great boon, and I'm sure that all higher education institutions will be immensely benefited by this assessment and accreditation process. Thank you. Jai Hind.